what
Marika
I'm
Walsh with the Globe and
working
Mail.
on.
Scotiabank's Vice President Derek Holt issued a rather scathing critique of your budget, saying essentially it's not fiscally restrained. Is he wrong?
Our budget is there to meet Canadians what they need for right now and for the coming years. We're there to support with affordability. We're there to support with the cost of groceries. We're there to help Canadians through the difficult times we are, but in a targeted way that remains fiscally responsible. We have the lowest deficit in the G7, the best debt to GDP ratio, and we preserve our AAA credit rating. We're one of the 3 largest economies in the world with a AAA credit rating, which means that our plan is responsible. It also is focused on delivering the healthcare supports Canadians need, as well as moving forward on the cleaner economy of the future with great jobs for the middle class. So this is the right budget for the time. We remain fiscally responsible, even as we're investing for a better tomorrow. But I'm going to turn to the Finance Minister, who has even more details on that. Chrystia.
Okay, well, look, clearly I agree with the Prime Minister. And the only point, thank you, Prime Minister. I'm not as tall as he is, but I agree with him. And the only point I would add is I think it's worth looking at the comments and the analysis that Stephen Poloz, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, has published today. And one thing that he underscored is investments in economic capacity are not inflationary. And investments in economic capacity actually grow the size. Yeah, no, but Marika, that's the point. If you are making investments that increase the economic capacity of the country, that is fiscally responsible. And that is what Stephen Poloz wrote about in a report published today. And it's relevant to where we are because he spoke about how our investment in the 2021 budget in early learning and childcare has expanded the economic capacity of the country. It has improved women's labor force participation. That has driven economic growth, made Canada stronger. And his point was that our investments in building the clean economy could very well do the same thing. That's what we believe.
Monsieur Trudeau, j'aimerais revenir sur la question des soins dentaires et du Québec. J'aimerais savoir un petit peu plus de clarté jusqu'où vous êtes prêt à aller. Est-ce que vous êtes prêt à donner un droit de retrait complet avec compensation au Québec ou est-ce que vous voudriez des garanties en échange de
or do you want guarantee to get the money back? We want to make sure that all Canadians under 12 who do not have access to dental care, that they do have access to those care that are accessible and affordable. Canadians with low or medium income, they will have access, and those who are less than 18 and those who are older and those who are handicapped will also have access. We want to make sure that
On est très content de pouvoir travailler avec le Québec et on reconnaît d'ailleurs que le Québec a déjà assuré que tous les enfants en dessous de 10 ans ont accès à des soins dentaires déjà. Comme dans le cas, le Québec a déjà une longueur d'avance.
Québec
nous,
has
on a mis de
already
l'argent sur la table pour que
advance.
tous les enfants
We
d'en dessous de 12 ans et
children
à la fin
under
de l'année,
12
les enfants en dessous de
at the
18
end of
ans
the year,
et les aînés
children
et les gens vivant avec des handicaps, mais
less
d'ici
than
quelques années,
18 and then
tous
the
les
adults,
Canadiens
the adults
avec un revenu
and then the
inférieur à
handicapped,
90 000 $ par année
all
qui
Canadians
n'ont pas
that earn
accès
less than
à
$90,000
une assurance
a year
dentaire par leur
should
travail
have
vont avoir accès aux
that
soins dentaires.
have
Donc, le
insurance,
but de ce
dental
programme,
insurance
c'est de
through
s'assurer
work.
que tout le monde à travers
We
le
want
pays
the program
ait accès à des
wants
soins dentaires de façon abordable.
guarantees for all
On
children,
est très
all
heureux
people
de
throughout
travailler avec
the
n'importe
country
quelle
to have
province
access.
sur
We
des
want to work
mesures
with
qui veulent
any
faire
province
pour s'assurer que ça soit
to make sure
fait.
that
Mais c'est
this
ça le but
is
du
a
programme
success.
et ça
That's
devrait
the objective
arriver
of the
à
program,
ces fins-là
and this
pour que
should
tout le monde
happen
ait accès.
so that everybody
Minister
has
Travis Danraj,
access.
CBC News.
to
Many
care.
companies are welcoming your clean tax credits, but some want to know what you're doing to make sure utilities are allowing businesses to connect to solar to the grid without all the red tape. And additionally, on air travel, the government is upping the air travel security charge that passengers pay. We already know that passengers are paying a lot for tickets. Why do they need more fees?
First of all, on our incentives, we know that there is an extraordinary amount of interest and investments going into cleaner economy, clean energy around the world, whether it's renewables, whether it's clean generated electricity, whether it's nuclear. There is a lot of excitement around hydrogen, around carbon capture and storage. These are things that we know are part of Canada being a reliable supplier of energy in a net zero future. That's what we're positioning ourselves for. We're going to continue working with provinces, utilities, and energy generators across the country to make sure we're building the future and the future jobs for Canadians right here. People in the energy industry know that there is a strong future because of Canada's leadership, Canada's recognized leadership around the world. Much of what the United States is right now doing on the Inflation Reduction Act is to try and catch up to the work that Canada has been doing steadily over the past 4 years when the U.S. Took a turn away from dealing with environmental responsibility. There are tremendous opportunities for Canada, and we're going to keep building on that. We know that ensuring the security of Canadians and ensuring smooth air travel is extraordinarily important. There need to be investments to improve the experience of air travelers. We need to improve the security and the processing speeds in air travel, and that's something that we are absolutely doing. But we feel it's only fair that those Canadians who are traveling are shouldering a little bit more of that burden, because the alternative would be all Canadians would be contributing with their tax dollars. We think targeting it in the right way, in a reasonable way, is the right thing to make sure that air travel remains efficient and affordable.
Hi, Prime Minister Trudeau.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I want to add one quick point, sorry, Prime Minister, just on the utilities point, because one of the really new things in the budget and in the clean economy plan is that public utilities are now eligible for it. That is a big deal. That is not traditionally the approach when it comes to tax credits. And that's a recognition of exactly what the Prime Minister has said, which is that Canada, on the one hand, has this huge economic advantage, this huge global economic advantage, because we have such a clean electricity grid. But we also recognize we're going to need to double the amount of electricity we generate. So the federal government is there. We're going to be helping provincial utilities so that we can power Canada and so that we can both get the industries that we need, the clean economy industries, and also keep electricity affordable for Canadians. And having said that, and speaking about airports, I unfortunately have a flight to catch, so I'm going to go. Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Hi, Prime Minister Trudeau.
I will try and take those questions then.
I have a question for you regarding...
Of course, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, Prime Minister Trudeau. Cindy Shen with the Canadian Press. Does your government have any intention of moving forward with a national pharmacare program?
We continue to know that no Canadian should have to choose between paying their rent and paying for much-needed pharmaceuticals, much-needed life-saving medications. That's why we have moved significantly over the past years in reducing drug prices costs with the Canada Drug Agency, with initiatives around bulk buying. We're going to continue to move forward, as we have in working with the government of PEI, for example, on delivering more affordable pharmacare for Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
Hello, Prime Minister. It's Mark Alden from Britain's Channel 4 television. I want to ask you a question about sanctions against Russia, if possible. Canada's very much led the way, led the West response to Putin's invasion of Ukraine. How important are sanctions as a tool in that response? And how important is it for all the Western powers to unite together and impose sanctions on the same individuals?
Well, one of the things that we've seen is that the coherence and the strength of unity of the West's response to Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine surprised Putin, but also surprised authoritarian leaders around the world. I think there has long been a misunderstanding by authoritarian dictators that democracies are somehow weak because we have to check in with voters every few years and get their permission to continue to govern and serve. What we're seeing is that the solid response, the aligned response of Western democracies and allies around the world on recognizing that the violation of the UN Charter, the violation and upending of the international rules-based order that led to such stability and peace in the world for close to 80 years cannot be allowed to stand. That's why Canada and other countries, I will point out that the UK has been right there extraordinarily strong on its pushbacks against Putin, its pushbacks against the illegal war that Russia is waging. And as we've said many times, we will continue to stand with Ukraine as long as it takes, with as much as it takes. The sanctions specifically are designed to emphasize that Russia does not get to profit from this violation of the territorial integrity, the sovereignty of a peaceful neighboring country, and we will stand together as long as it takes.